I went through all 35 cross-generational evolutions, and now I hunger for more. I want to take a crack at ranking the 53 elemental stoners, and perhaps Apple consumers. I did 10 that I rated back in 2014, but back when I was an incomplete human at a ripe 17. I'm doing this based on wherever I feel like, really. There's 50 to go through here, so I can't explain myself fully for all of them, so chances are I'm definitely going to lean less towards the wreath is rather unreliable due to its lack of recovery, and more towards the damn boy, you got any Dairy Dunkers in them lunchboxes? Some clash from the last video, so they'll probably be extra brief, but there's 53 elemental stoners I've got to rinse through here. So who is the singular worst one out of them? There's not. It's a bottom 3. The most dead of any package deal. The kind you find slapped on singular resale blister packs. No one buys, except whoever runs Asda. You know it's gonna be the Simiside Man trio, outclassed in every sense, since they're just the 3 starters you get in Unova if you're ripped black and white off a Ugandan torrent site. I didn't even know these evolved with a stone. Get more use out of eating the stone and using the calories to throw a punch yourself. Newer Pokemon games hold in your hand is kind of a played out bit, but I'd point to these 3 as the beginning of the handhold era. Rival too hard apparently, so they throw you an easy win. You Utes who played black and white first when you were 6 years old, you didn't even know about the Hoenn Route 110 struggle when your rival mugs you in plain sight. I don't even really hate these. They bring out what I can only describe as offensive apathy. They're so collectively nothing special. I actually feel mugged off at their very existence for wasting everyone's time. Being the product of the second weakest Pokemon going, Sunflora was already unsalvageable from the day it emerged from the dirty soil it was encapsulated in. It's obviously gonna be dead, looking more like it gets sparked out by one of Yoshi's eggs, let alone a fire blast. How would anyone disrespect themselves like that, equipping their belt with a ball containing a sunflower that gains the least amount of power from the sun? Imagine doubling your speed to be on par with Whalmer rolling on land. You could probably put Sunflora in a pot, and it wouldn't have the power to do anything about it. I didn't even clock Skitty even needed a Moonstone to evolve. I saw this thing and assumed, yeah, you probably evolved like level 18, 22 max. Delcatty, the prim Pokemon. You're really gonna waste a rare Moonstone to give your cat a travel pillow. Definitely a Tory Pokemon. I went in on Blossom a fair bit last time, but I don't dislike it that much. Its design's okay, but you can't really be seen in public with it. People are gonna be locking eyes with you intentionally, looking for an easy payday, taking your lunch money if you walk the streets looking that vulnerable with a Blossom following you around. It's probably the evolution Sunkern should have had. Sunflora should have been left in the drafts back in 1999. I'm only, 6 in? And I'm already at a point where they start to get even remotely decent. But Shiftry is one that just doesn't click with me though, and I can't really explain why. Has all the elements of a Pokemon I probably should like way more. Unique design, interesting type combination, and at the very least, gives you an actual reason to spawn as a sun. But for some reason, I'm just completely indifferent. If you're gonna use a Sunstone, it's leagues ahead a better investment to chuck it on Pitilil than picking up Sunkern and hand-feeding it a Sunstone, as if it could do a single thing about it. Although pretty bang on average, Lilligant is a lot more visually stimulating for your guests as a houseplant, and it actually has a reason to get sunburnt with 90 speed. But out of all the Pokemon that would get bullied if they lived in the sunless UK, Victory Bell is definitely one of the better ones out of the elemental stoners. It does a pretty good job of salvaging a design as dead as Bellsprout, and it has the anime funny scream. Flareon is to the evolutions what the Simi Trio are to anything. The Sideman Eevee, especially when you're talking about the original trio. Notoriously dodgy move pool, but at the very least, the design's not bad. Maybe one of the more plain Eevees, but it's worthy of a C grade. And so many of the elemental stoners that they love their sunlight, blind in the eye, but blind with power from the speed boost. But that's not even relevant here with Vileplume. That's just an option you have compared to Effect Spore, handing out stat inflictions. Gloom better be getting that Leaf Stone if you want the superior product of Oddish. Chinchino is a prime specimen that I feel as though exclusively gets used only by people who really like a good Chinchino. Low defense, normal typing, looking ripe and ready for its jaw getting spun, but decent attack and speed with skill link. You try to spin his jaw, this thing may surprise you in a scrap. It's probably like slightly above average as far as normal types go. The whole scarf gimmick avoids what easily could have been a bald grayscale chinchilla. Going through the cross-gen mons, I said Slowking got Buzz Lightyeared badly, but there might not be a bigger Woody in the toy box than base form Ninetales. Alolan form, he didn't have to go in this hard. Didn't need to expose Cantonian Ninetales that badly. Ninetales is something you'd remember and think, yeah, that's like a 7 out of 10. I'll rate him. Then Alola drops, the lights come on, and you clock, oh nah, you're like a bang on 5. The frontman of Mirror Bossman himself. His design definitely gets my attention far more than the Shiftry counterpart. Revolves around rain, but doesn't botch it like Sunflora and Sun. Man comes pre-built with a rain dish, constantly cutting shapes, so that rain dance is guaranteed. Swift swim ability, Ludicolo is moist and deadly. Glaceon may have outranked Flareon, but it's still definitely closer to the back end of the EV pecking order along with it. With 52 in total here, got some tougher competition here for Glaceon to compete with than there was for the cross-gen evolutions. Once you throw a Moonstone at Jigglypuff, it stops putting you to sleep verbally and starts putting you to sleep with his backhand. Expect no less from the big hoss of the Mystery Dungeon Guild. The fairy type only added to its wedge, although outclassed by a good few other fairy types. Electric and Bug isn't a type combination I knew I wanted up until Vikavolt spawned. Mad to look at the glow-up Grubbin got, beefs up to evolve into something that could power an original Game Boy for 2 hours max. Then that D-sized Duracell becomes this weapon. The one Bug immune to all electric fly zappers. Mishana may be the first Pokemon I saw that made me think, right, Pokemon Company, Game Freak, Genius Sonority, you lot are getting weird with it. You're getting a bit freaky. I'm into it. Pokemon should embrace how far they can get with its monstrosities, which can be a gamble, hit or miss with that mindset, but Mishana bangs. A proper traditional family is the Nidolots. The woman's Christian duties within a family is to provide utility to smite thou's enemies. The man is to be the meteor biceps in the relationship. So Nido Short King has the superior wedge. For something that's shorter than Danny DeVito, Nido King is quite the all-terrain slump machine. Executor follows up from Nido King being one of those staple mons you'd have in a Cantonian team. Especially if you didn't procure the bulb. Execute on its own is dead. Objectively, boring design. As much as some of you might rate it, I don't think you can argue otherwise. Executor makes it into something more interesting than a dropped packer medium free range. And then the Alolan form comes in, long neck style, making the 6'7" Executor look like Danny DeNito. I'm not sure how much this one counts, but it's listed on all the websites, and it's practically the same as an elemental stone, just in the form of sustenance. A stone you actually could eat and gain some calories on without the risk of choking on a shiny rock. Force-feeding your apple, another apple of the tart variety, and the little green ghoul worming its way inside expands its gaff into a mobile home. Slowking, it's alright, I don't mind. I like big brain Slowpoke being a thing to begin with, but my gut's still saying it's been shelved by the new one. Another Galarian evolution that apparently comes under Stone evolution from a Galarian wreath, giving Slowpoke the intellectual's Oculus Rift. Another mid-tier evolution, it seems. And if you're talking about practically, definitely near the back end with the other two, there's better ways you could use a Leaf Stone, but it's never rock bottom till it goes anywhere near the monkey. Definitely the most underrated EV design though. Gotta rate it up for that alone. An electric eel already sounds pre-built to be a Pokemon. You can see a documentary on tadpoles. You've got to add a bit of wedge to them though. Add some machismo to make them believably exist in the Pokemon world to compete with these other weapons. With Electros, you don't need to change much from the documentary to make this thing a believable threat in the Pokemon world. Only thing you apparently had to change was to make it levitate for that zero weakness perk. Speaking of wedged up tadpoles, I'm all in on Polywrath. They took an already sound design in Polyworld and made it into a giant singular shoulder blade. As someone hasn't been paying the Cantonian Mafia their cut of the shares from assisting you in selling off counterfeit TMs, you might think being over the sea your kneecaps are nice and safe from Giovanni's ground-based crocodile, until we hear Meowth down there pipe up like, "Hey Polly, advance on them." I just wish in-game it could reflect that a bit more practically. Frostless comfortably slots into the B tier with the elemental stone featuring Apple's lot, as it did with the cross-generational evolutions, the superior product of Snorunt. The counterpart to Ninetales, which I feel as though many seem to forget. They only seem to mention Arcanine, proper iPhone case design. The people who only remember 10 Pokemon max always remember Arcanine, the unofficial, legendary Pokemon with the base stats to back up the claim. Gallade still holds its own when competing against the elemental stoners like it did with the cross-geners. I could have sworn this thing was a trade evolution, which I think shows just how much I've mentally set sail on Captain Morgan's grog vessel and don't even remember this was the staple mon I had for the first video on this. 6 years ago, to be fair. Honchkrow also retains its semi-high up status from the last one like Frostless and Gallade. If it's not Giovanni or even Meowth dishing out the Polywrath to go kneecap fishing in the deep sea, it's gonna be Honchkrow who's been delegated that authority to unleash Big Paul. I have no idea what it is, but I think I just rate the simplicity of Galarian Slowbro. Having Shellder bite new limbs was the best thing that could have happened to this species. It's a sound concept having Shellder bite the arm and giving Slowpoke that Metroid upgrade. The purple do be looking dapper too. If your shoulder's having trouble wrapping its thick tongue around a Slowpoke's arm, or forge its way onto however a Galarian cuff evolution works, a Waterstone is a top shout for Shoulder. Cloyster's packing the skill link setup Cinccino has, but is far more weaponized with Shell Smash. Now you could waste a Moonstone on a Skitty, might be for the best preemptively getting it a neck brace for when its jaw gets spun, or you could skim that stone across the Mount Moon natives and get the unit Clefable. Can't get your jaw spun without a jaw, wouldn't even matter anyway with the fairy type existing, because Clefable is the fairy Pokemon predating the type existing and shedding the vulnerable normal skin immune to poison, burns, borderline immune to your hands. Nidoking, Executor, Arcanine, staple mons of the Cantonian era, but Starmie is a lock on those teams. If you choose Charmander, you probably wouldn't go out of your way for an Arcanine. You procured the bulb, you probably wouldn't get an Executor. You're a man of proper taste and culture. You copped yourself a Squirtle, you'd still find a reason to get Starmie on your team. Arguably the best investment a Waterstone could churn out. I rate Raichu highly enough as it is, but then you tell me it travels to scrap via surfing on its own tail. That's a banger. A banger that I've got to say, still not enough to outrank the peak Cantonian Raichu form for me, but still good. For many people, the GOAT's Eevee is Vaporeon. A fine choice out of the Eevee lineup, been Blue Ball and Staruse from getting that big boy evolution since day one. The one thing keeping the Starmie population in check, Vaporeon. There are many reasons why Roserade isn't down the back end of the field along with the houseplants. At one point before the shiny stone was discovered, it would have been potted and rarely watered just next to the Sunflora section of the greenhouse, but Roserade is a frontman grass type. Whimsicott's one that's a bit of a sleeper hit. It's the reverse Shiftry for me. I don't completely know why, but it just clicks for me. Maybe it's just my gut instinct telling me to never waste a Sunstone on Sunkern, when Whimsicott in a pitch black moist cavern still has near enough twice the speed of a Sunflora juiced up on ultraviolet rays. This one I like to call Pikachu, the top of all the Pikachu forms. Pikachu can slim down all he wants for the promos and camera shoots to get monetized. Soon as he gets close to a Thunderstone, it's packing on the pounds. All that peak performance bulk gets back on with the Alpha Raichu body. But Sandshrew has given out tough aesthetic competition for whatever it evolves into, in my opinion. That goes to show just how much I rate Sandshrew, with Alolan Sandslash still being this high up. Definitely another Ninetales case where it's taken a reasonably bland original design and made it more appealing to my peepers, you see? It's a shame that type gets slumped by 4 times weaknesses. Mrs1upz is a top boy from the Sinnoh cross-gen evolutions and maintains that top tier ranking as a stoner, arguably the best Sinnovian form conceptually. I never actually realised the Dusk Stone was required to evolve your blade collection. A wise stone to expose to your pet knives to arm yourself with this literal weapon. Florges may be the garden Pokemon, but it's not going anywhere near the garden along with the home-based reduce style. All of these grass Pokemon getting outranked by something which isn't even grass, has that frontman status along with Roserade. We all knew once a UK region was confirmed, what are they going to do for tea? What are they going to do for the lowest hanging fruit for England stereotypes? And somehow, I made it bang. How am I not going to put ghostly tea in the top bracket? Definitely ordered the Chinese for the boys during a long meeting to come up with a tea pun, and then they made a design around it. And I had tough competition from Japan. How could I put something low on this list, canonically named Pot Death? Darmanitan in his base form was already many people's top 5 out of the Unovian natives. Now you're gonna relocate him to the back end of the freezer that is Galar and make him a frosty, festive snowman for the winter season. I like this form since it doesn't disregard its original type completely, like Sandslash becomes weak to its original element. Darmanitan doesn't forget that at base form it's a fire type, encased in snow with the Zen mode. Subjectivity for the product of Eevee, so many to choose, yet I choose Jolteon. Its move pool's pretty weak, but not Flareon 0 stab till fairly recently weak. Its stats are mixed, but it's not unusable Glaceon stats. It's maybe outclassed in some cases, but it's still always my go-to Eevee. Togekiss was handily one of the top boys for the cross-gen evolutions, expected no less as a stone evolution. Who'd have thought that egg Misty lugged around for 5 seasons would have paid off this hard? Oh, she released it. Never keep the good ones, do they? If you're thinking of feeding that little green goblin inside your apple, that apple of the tart variety, you might want to think again. You can upgrade your lunch to a fresh prime apple pie, hand them the sweet apple to devour, and get yourself a ton of apple. Making a tea concept bang for the UK was creative enough for me. How are you gonna make a sentient apple pie go in this hard? And you're gonna make it a dragon apple pie. Buzz Lightyear. Herself? I rate this not just for the physical glow up, the practicality got wedged up too. In every sense, it took a Pokemon no one was even really talking about. Even when you go back and play through Kanto, everyone's on about Arcanine anyway, and it made it relevant again. It's a prime example of how to pull off a proper form change. The main thing giving me competition for copping a Jolteon is if Helioptile is within my ball radius. Compared to Jolteon, it beefs up that move pool and drains all the water it's filled up with for some HP recovery. I've always rated this design from the Kalos days. A solar-powered lizard bangs. Heliolisk does what Sunflora wishes it could do. Heliolisk can generate entire cities single-handedly. Sunflora can't even generate enough strength to open its own eyes. Thunderstone may be the most difficult stone to just hand out. Then you go and make Magnezone a stone evolution in Gen 8. Pound for pound, maybe the most valuable stone. Not many to use it on, but it hasn't been padded out like the Leaf or Sunstone. Just now I said Thunderstone might be the pound for pound best stone with the products it can produce. I am lying to myself as if the Dusk Stone isn't the most weaponized stone, second to the Eviolite, Honchkrow, Mrs1upz, Aegislash, and Chandelure. That's a meaty lineup, and Chandelure is leading the whole pack. Even with the tough competition from the likes of Poliwrath and his mono-trap physique, a haunted fire ghost Chandelier surely has to be in anyone's top 10 here. Whenever people used to complain, ice cream, kind of cringe, Game Freak, you had Chandelure there to shut them down.